Hello friends, welcome to Banking Frontiers. My name is Manoj Agrawal. I'm the group editor here. And today I'm in conversation with two very great experts on the topic of all about data. So today let's talk with these experts how data can be managed, how better value can be derived out of it in this series all about data. May I request our panelists, Mr. Sunder Krishnan and Srikumar, to briefly introduce themselves. Sundar, can we have your introduction?
Yeah, I'm currently Chief Risk Officer of Reliance Nippon Life Insurance Limited, adding also legal compliance, company secretary, fraud prevention, policy listening, along with enterprise risk management.
Sure. Srikumar, can we have your introduction?
Sure. Manoj, firstly, thanks for having me today and pleasure meeting you, Sundar, as well on this interesting conversation. So I am Srikumar, founder and CEO of Alpharithm Technologies. We are a specialist data and AI organization.
My first question is this. It is relatively straightforward to see what technology can value add to data because that's happening all the time. But what about it from a business perspective, from a risk and compliance perspective? How do those functions add value to an organization's data and make it more meaningful?
So when you speak from a business perspective, especially if you have a large business, say a financial services business, banking or insurance, you need to organize data right from front. I've noticed that even in a simple application form, customer application form, research is shown only 60% of data is used from what data we collect from customer. So the data that you collect, you have to organize it in systems. Systems do not speak to each other. We have apps and apps and apps, and so many applications that they don't integrate well. And so the data that you collect to the left may not translate into a integrated format, integrated usage. Although technologically it's extremely easy and doable, but still organizations suffer because of challenges in infrastructure, in application, in data management, in knowledge management. And you need projects and projects on this. So there are several projects I've seen in my life in the last 3 decades that, you have integration, then you have some kind of data management, some kind of ODS, some kind of OTS. And then now, of course, data everywhere and available every tool. So that's what the recent requirement is, that you need data at fly and at every tool and in your cell. And if that's the requirement, then you'll have to reorganize data again to suit these needs. So the business need is to have data on fly, data in the tool, data on the go, whereas it takes time to set that data. And therefore, you have, of course, we get lots of ODSs reports, in the sense that every day we get a report what's happened yesterday, at least the key data for business. But still, is it adequate? No, that requires lots of analysis in Excel by respective functionaries. So you would have challenges in getting data assimilated.
Srikumar, your side of the coin?
Well, I think I agree with Sundar. Whatever we do from a technology perspective is majorly driven by what business actually wants. Like Sundar said, right from the onboarding application, which is capturing, customers' data before a policy is issued. From that point onwards, a lot of data is being collected by companies, by insurance organizations, and it goes through multiple storage layers as well, or repositories within the organization, like ODF being one data warehouse. Then they introduce data lake, and now, like Sundar said, the data can be accessed from anywhere, everywhere, etc. But the challenge is, applying certain data management policies and data governance policies in order to derive value from the data. And that is all dependent on what exactly business wants, right? So that is a key element. So technology is not for the sake of technology, it is actually to deliver value to the business.
Okay. So on one hand, we have lots and lots of applications. On the other hand, we have lots and lots and lots of data. And they all need to talk to each other. So do you see more of applications adapting to data, or more of data adapting to applications? Or how does this whole thing become more closer together, more connected together?
So data is oil today, and that's the primary source. I would say data needs apps, or not the other way around. You need data. You need data for decision making. You need data on the fly. You need information quickly. And so to get that, you have apps being bought to translate smarter, quicker, efficient data to get yourself organized. So the challenge is to get that right after. Once you have what you want, once you know what the business needs, then the challenge is to organize the infrastructure, organize the application world, and orchestrate data out of these in an integrated manner, in a fast manner.
So Srikumar, what do you want to add to that?
I think I would say it's both ways, because you need apps to collect the data in the first instance. And then you need a set of applications to analyze the data, like Sundar said. So what we're also seeing when we go and look at customers' data more and more, especially in the Indian context, is the data that is getting captured is not of good quality. Right. So there's a lot of data getting captured in the Indian context today, but they are not of good quality. Hence, one of the reasons why we are not able to derive value from this data, because at the time of insurance data collection, for instance, in Sundar's context, I would say that the pressure is on the brokers or whoever that is to collect and quickly issue a policy. He's not actually validating some of the key metrics or demographic information, whether that's accurate or not. He just wants to collect the data and quickly issue a policy and and then do a finish the commission process, right? So we are seeing that a lot of data, rubbish data or garbage data is being collected today. And as we all know, garbage in is garbage out. So the first thing we do in a data quality exercise is, how do we ensure that we are putting certain validations in place at the point of data collection? Because that is the place at which you can fix the data quality issues. So I guess to summarize, it's both ways, right? So there are applications to collect data, and there are also applications to process and analyze this data. So it's both.
But what about data that is coming from machines, in the sense data that is being picked up from the website about visitors or customers using the apps? Is all that data typically good enough, clean enough, structured enough? What is generally the experience?
No, the general experience is that they all have to be validated and enriched. So there is a lot of data, like you said, but the challenge, I think, for our client organizations is to create the 360-degree view of a customer. Now we are moving towards not just a golden record. So one of the things we specialize in master data management is about creating a single view of customer, for instance, based on certain demographic attributes, the data sitting in multiple systems. How do we match, merge, and create a golden record? But now we are moving towards creating a golden profile of the same customer in order to upsell, cross-sell, understand their behavior, improve their customer experience, etc. And that data, like you said, Manoj, is sitting across multiple of these applications. And so our challenge is now to get all this data, deduplicate them, cleanse them, enrich them, enhance them, and then add to the enterprise data that is already there in the policy admin system.
What kind of data sources today for the insurance sector are giving a high volume or value of data that can help generate a 360-degree view?
So to go back to what Srikumar said, also the data that you collect from hardwares, machines, and also from various other devices are also useful in many investigations that we do. So we like to know where the guy was, where was he located, when did he log in, what is the electronic data. All these device data are very, very useful when we corroborate. Of course, he is right saying that it takes time. It's not straight put. You need to still analyze it, validate it. But we do collect that for investigations. Now, coming back to a question, 360-degree, you have several apps today in financial services. One is about what is there in the data mart and data lake and ODS, and also analytics that run on profiles. He was again right when he said that from a customer 360-degree view, slowly we're looking at profile. So when you create a profile, you need to know what kind of customer that person is in terms of fashion, in terms of speed, in terms of decision making, fast decision making, slow decision making, how much time you would do, what kind of money or wealth that he has that he can outlay for investing in your products. So these are the data these are the information that is needed. And so you have different apps, and then you have again analytics that run and give you one view of a profile of a person.
Are there metrics emerging to measure how well the data is being managed, how well it is being used? As an organization with trillions and bytes of data coming from so many different sources, going into so many repositories, what kind of metrics should an organization be using to get some kind of understanding what is the level of usage and what is the level of impact?
That's what I was speaking to Srikumar. The challenges here is when you look afterwards, I say, what could I have done better? Then it's easier to say. But when you are on the fly, when things happen, when apps are bought, when data is bought, when businesses transform, it's the journey. And this journey could be transformative. And so you realize that you don't have the required amount of data or the data that could magnify the impact when you want to do that. And so it's more digital, more transformative, more need oriented rather than from a long-term strategic perspective. Somebody hasn't thought through the journey from a governance perspective, from an impact perspective, how long it could take, how much it would take.
Srikumar, what kind of metrics do your clients ask you about? And is it more about metrics or more about alignment, as Sunder has discussed? What comes up more in the discussion?
I think if you, I would slightly differentiate between the Indian context and the, Western context. I think the fundamental reason in the Indian context, to the answer I'm going to say, is that India, the data in the Indian context is growing at a phenomenal rate, much more than what we are seeing in the Western world, to be honest. So that is one, because of which the governance, emphasis on governance is even more important. But what we are seeing is most enterprises are aware that the governance piece is missing, but they're so busy trying to sort out and keeping the lights on that on a day-to-day basis, increasing their revenue margins, etc., that governance always goes on the back burner. Right. So I think what the need of the hour is to create that data governance framework. At some point we need to sit down and say, hey, now I'm going to create a data governance framework. That means that I will define certain policies and rules around data access. I will define policies and rules around data, onboarding applications data, how the data is getting moved from one place to the other places, data storage, which is an important aspect of, for example, for GDPR, which is now going to be part of the India Privacy Act, data protection bill, whenever that comes on board. Consent management is another layer. All of that is part of the data governance framework. Data lineage is another one. How do you know that the data that I'm seeing in my reports is actually correct? And what is the way to trace back this data from the reports all the way to the source system? So all this is part of data governance. So you create certain data owners. They will all roll one side into the chief data officer and another into a CIO and the line of business head itself. So create that cross-functional data governance team, or we call it a data governance council. So first step would be to create a data governance council, and one of the objectives there would be to define the KPIs for measuring the data inside the organization. Because if you want to start treating data as an asset, you need a mechanism to measure the data. And before you start measuring the data, you need to bring all the data together and you need to discover the data, right? And before you put it in a central place, and then you start measuring. So those prerequisites are there. So I think data governance framework is what most of our clients are now interested in and working with. Subsequently, there are a lot of metrics that are available to measure if that is all successful or not.
Okay. So does Alpharithm offer services or guidance or consultancy in the area of data governance, or there are specialists in that?
Yeah, so we do help clients create a framework around data governance. We've done this in the Indian context for a lot of banks. in India, the top one of the top two of the top 5 banks we've done for insurance companies as well. It is just about creating that helping the clients move away from that where they are at that point to the next level. And data governance is not a one-off process, right? It's a journey. And like we were just discussing with Sunder, the data is being collected, more and more applications are getting evolved. At some point, it all looks stale. So how do you make the data current? Again, by putting a governance policy in place. So we help, we sit with the clients, we create that council and, have a chat with the line of businesses and help create that process. And then first is a process, because it's a people process technology combination. So first we have to discuss people, create a process, then you deploy the technology in order to do everything that I just said, which is creating a central catalog, creating data lineage, creating policies and frameworks. So there is a central class of pane where you can go and look at all this enterprise data. And then that then becomes an important input into AI and machine learning.
Sundar, can you give us your perspective on data governance? What is the current state of evolution? What are the new thoughts and things that are coming in mind to make data governance meaningful in the business scenario today?
The need was a data council, as Srikumar put it, which was missing. So what we have today is, yes, the IT persons or the IT function sits with various functions, understands the needs, understands the applications in each function, and sort of gives app support. There is a IT strategy, there is a business strategy, and there is a plan. But the digital plan, the data plan, or the data governance journey is something missing. We did have, of course, chief digital officer. We did have data governance projects also run by technology. We had a very elaborate IT strategy some years back, but each of them is at different points of time. An organization has moved from that point. And what was relevant at that time is not relevant now in the digital journey. And this is the issue. And so you need continuously a data council kind of a need, continuous data governance need in terms of studying discipline of what data needs to be collected, how data needs to be used. Are we inconveniencing our customer by asking too much data? Are things that we need to decide in advance.
Sundar, if the data protection bill comes through and becomes a law, right? Do you think most companies will be forced to do something around the data governance? Is that one way to achieve this?
Yeah, of course. Because we don't have profile-wise consents for various facets of business, and also what information you have to pass on to the customer. The passing on information to customer are standard reports today. It's not organized well yet. It's more MIS-driven, dashboard-driven than consent-oriented and information being passed. So it would drive data governance.
Okay.
So one thing is definitely companies will have to find better ways of communicating with customers, because if I have relationships with 10 different organizations, I don't want to be bombarded with this consent-related stuff with 10 different organizations with whatever frequency and all that. So that is another challenge to look at from the customer engagement point of view. Also, to add my 2 bits, I think in technology, it's always easy to start a project. So to sit back and analyze the big picture from the governance perspective and then roll out a project is again takes a little bit of adjustment. In the sense, the natural tendency is let's start doing it. Okay. That's what youngsters and engineers and technology guys would like to do. Cool. So thank you guys. I think we've covered a lot of areas. Some of them we've gone into depth, particularly governance. But I think this is a challenge. This is going to be a topic where there is going to be ongoing innovation, ongoing improvements in maturity, ongoing making life easier for everyone within the organization as well as its customers. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manoj. Thank you, Sundar. Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, Srikumar. Same here.